Okay, everybody, welcome to the McDowell County Board of Commissioners meeting, a monthly meeting. It's an honor to have you here tonight, and we always begin our meeting with a prayer. So I would like to ask everyone to please stand at this time, and we have Mr. Tony Brown that's going to lead us in a prayer.
Bow our heads. Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for all your many blessings. And Father, we ask you today, God, to guide us through this meeting. Help us to make the choices that would be right for this community, this county, and for you, Lord. And Father, we pray that you just bless each and every one here tonight. Help us to do thy will in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And Commissioner Vaughn, listener, please.
Everybody place your hand on your heart. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks so much. You can be seated. Okay, Commissioners, at this time we have the minutes before us. We have two different sessions. What's the pleasure of the board concerning approval of the minutes as presented?
Motion to approve minutes is presented.
Have a motion, second, discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Thank you. At this time we have our agenda for tonight. Are there any additions or deletions at this time by Commissioners or staff?
We approve the agenda.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, and opposed, like sign. Okay, let's go to our first item, and we have with us Ms. Kendall, Waugh, and she is here to talk about a new graduation program. So, Ms. Waugh, welcome to the boardroom. Glad to have you tonight. And tell us all about this program. We're excited to hear about it.
Where is the presentation? Will it just be on your computers?
It's going to pull up right here.
Oh, okay.
It's warming up.
All right, it's warming up.
Kind of warming.
It's a little slow.
Yes.
Okay, so our Student Services Department in McDowell County Schools have created a program that we are trying to get out into the community, and so I want to thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. We will be going before other government agencies. We are trying to get into every place that will listen to us, industries, etc., because it takes all of us to make this happen. So our new initiative is hashtag finish what you started. And so we want our students as they start school and in our community as well, as we think about even your offices that you hold, that once you're elected, that you finish what you start. That you say you're going to do what you're going to do. In our industries, as we have went out, we try to do at least once a year. Ms. Gouge arranges for us to go into the different industries so we know what's out there for our students in the county. And what we are always hearing is that they're constantly hiring because people are hired and they don't finish what they started. So hashtag finish what you started, and applying that not only to our students so that they graduate, but also to all of our community. Let's go mark this thing. All right, so these are students in our public school system when they were, I believe this is kindergarten. These are now ninth graders. So this young lady says, I want to be a student at ASU. She is the class of 2023. Do we know if she is on track to graduate? Another student, I will be a student at Harvard University, class of 2023. What have we done to ensure that she can pursue her dream of attending Harvard? I will be a firefighter. How can we work with the community to keep this student engaged? This picture is cut off, but I think we can all read that. I will be a professional cabinet maker. Did you know this about him? And it all starts with early intervention. And we have amazing preschool programs throughout our county. That's one part of early intervention. It's also identifying issues that students have with learning and addressing those at an early age. It is also access to health care, access to mental health services, not only for the students, but also our families. Having family resources. We identify areas of weaknesses early in education and work to provide interventions. Truancy. Mentoring, tutoring, reducing food insecurity, reducing homelessness. How can you invest in elementary and middle school age students to provide those early interventions so that they stay invested? Little girl right there in the middle just started teaching at West Marion Elementary School. And it continues through high school, but it doesn't stop there. So what when we talk about hashtag finish what you started, we need students to know that that high school diploma is valuable, that it's important, and we need employers in our community to not hire students, not hire these adults if they do not have their high school diploma. Because that's incentive that we have used as educators at the high school. When a student comes in and tells us that they want to drop out of high school, we're like, what are you going to do? How are you going to support your family? We try to get them to look past this moment, whatever that issue is in their life. In this moment, what are you going to do in 5 years? What are you going to do in 10 years? And when they can tell me that they can go work at XYZ, making $20,000, $25,000 a year, maybe it's not that high, they inflate things, it takes away a bargaining tool for us to keep them in school. Also, what we are finding is that employers who hire high school students who work them late hours leads to the truancy and absenteeism that we deal a lot with at the high school level. And so working with those employers to make sure if they have high school students employed in their business, that they're out by 10 o'clock, that they have time to do homework, that they're not closing and staying there till midnight. We need mentors for these students. Miss Glenda Glenn at the high school has worked tirelessly, and there may be some of you in the room here tonight that have served as a mentor. What we find is that relationships with students is what keeps them engaged. And so when we're talking about our dropouts, we're not talking about students who are athletes. We're not talking about students who are in the band. We're not talking about students who are in NJROTC. Students who withdraw from school have no relationship that binds them to that school. And sometimes it's somebody coming from outside that school that comes in and is looking for them, that they know that Tony Brown, was going to call you out, that Tony Brown is going to come see me on Thursday, and he's going to come and he's going to be talking to me and checking in with me and looking at my grades and looking at my attendance, and he cares that I'm here at this school today, and so I'm going to make sure I'm here. The students that we have been able to connect mentors with, we have seen a lot of success. So we need mentors, we need tutors. A lot of times, elementary schools have a lot of that support, and middle and especially high school do not, because people are scared of high school students, and they are just those elementary school people in a big body. So we need that. We need more co-op opportunities, more internship opportunities, so that students are able to come to your workplace and spend time with you and see what you do on a daily basis. The fire department is here tonight, and they provide internship opportunities for those students. And I can tell you, I have one student in particular that I'm working with right now that if it were not for the fire department, he would not be in school. And so those things from our community are so vital. So how can you invest in our high school students, our middle school students, our elementary age students? This next slide is a hard slide to look at. This is our dropout data for the last 3 years. And it's by grade level. So a lot of those ninth grade students were probably repeaters because, as you know, you have to be 16 to be able to withdraw from school. And so those students were probably repeaters. And 10th grade, you see higher numbers, 11th grade the highest. And these are difficult numbers to look at. Okay. Currently, this is as of today, at McDowell High School, we have had 20 students drop out this school year. 1 10th grader, 10 11th graders, 9 12th graders. Of these 20 students, only 4 of them actually came into the school and withdrew, or contacted someone at the school and said, I'm not going to return. The rest of those students just didn't show back up. They just didn't come to school. And after 10 days, legally, we're supposed to drop them, but we never do. It's usually, and Mr. McPeters can attest to this, usually it's like maybe 20 days because we have a team of people who goes out to their home at 10 days or at 8 days and says, you know, you missed a lot of school, you need to come back in. Counselors are calling home. Your child has not been in school. We need them back in school. We'll do another home visit, try to get them back in school. And they just never come back. So at this point, we have 20 students who have made that decision. We have a graduation rate of 83.2%, which we are proud of that, and I attribute those visits to those homes that have brought students back. And this year, before school started, Ms. Gooch put together a plan of action, and we invited students that had quit last year to come to Countryside, and she fed them lunch. We met one-on-one with them and their parents, and several of those students did re-enroll in school. 83.2%. We would love to have higher. That's our goal. This is the cost of a dropout to our county. $292,000 is the amount a dropout costs McDowell County over that student's lifetime. And that is based on half of Americans on public assistance are dropouts. They pay less taxes because over their lifetime they're earning $260,000 less than their peers who earn a diploma. And the unemployment rate for dropouts is generally 4% higher than the national average. That bottom number is that 292,000 multiplied by the 61 students who dropped out 2018, 2019. So that's $17.8 million over the lifetime of those 61 students. So dropping out is a long process of gradual disengagement and disconnection that can begin as early as first grade. 3 students in every kindergarten class will drop out of high school. Which 3? Which 3? And that's a hard slide for me to look at. I have a kindergartner. And that's hard for me to think about him and his peers. And what's changed is our families have changed. The impact of drugs on our children, and if you know anybody that teaches in elementary school, I don't think the high school has quite felt it other than the use of those students. But the impact of the learning that has been impacted by drugs, by the families, the loss of families to those students, the rise of homelessness, the increase of grandparents raising their children, their grandchildren. It's very difficult. So I asked the Board of Commissioners, how willing are you to invest in the future of our county when we talk about these students? So it is a school and community collaboration. The schools cannot do this by ourselves. The graduation is owned and understood by everyone. So what's your role? And I don't know if this can be a back and forth kind of thing, but I have some ideas if you can't talk to me. I don't know how that works.
We're going to absorb everything you're saying because we got a time.
Okay. How much more time do I have?
Well, you know,
I go over it
5:15
already?
is actually our next appointment item, but go ahead.
Okay, so I'm over it. But just real quick. So you can mentor and tutor a student. You can support a school-based mental health clinic. You can support a school-based mental health program. You can support substance abuse prevention and treatment programs within our county. Improve access to mental health inpatient facilities. And if I can't say anything else about that, I would say that when we have a student who has to be hospitalized, they're in Raleigh. They may sit in our ER for 24 to 48 hours before they're transferred to a bed. And that's a big problem for our families, to have to try to serve their students and be with them through some of the most difficult days of their lives. So please consider being a tutor and mentoring. Be looking for the hashtag Finish What You Started signs and posters, which we will be getting out in here hopefully, and all the businesses in town, because this is a community effort that all of us have to be invested in for our students.
Kendall, if someone wants to volunteer to be a mentor or tutor, who do they contact?
You can contact me. You can
Okay.
contact Glenda Glenn.
Can you give some contact information?
Yeah, I'll send it to
Okay,
Cheryl.
okay, good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Lynn, can you get the light right quick? All right, this time let's move to our next item on our appointment schedule. This would be the Transit Facility Planning Grant. We have Mr. Conley with us. Mr. Conley, come on up, sir. Good to see you, my friend.
Good afternoon, Board. I'm here with a request on approval of a facility planning grant. McDowell Transit is currently operating out of Foothills Industry, which we are very thankful to be able to lease some office spaces, gated parking lot with lights and surveillance camera for our vehicles. As McDowell Transit continues to grow, staff recommends that the county begin planning for long-time facility needs. We have learned that NCDOT will provide funding for construction of a facility. However, funding can be requested. A study of sites and facility need to take place and be conducted by an NCDOT-approved consultant. NCDOT will provide 90% of the funding, and which requires a 10% local match, which estimate to be about $9,500. If approval of the match with approval of the match, we'll be funding this in the next fiscal year. Again, this is for the approval of a facility planning grant.
Okay, Mr. Wood, anything you need to add?
This is something that counties around us, we've noticed. I think Yancey is the latest that has done this study, and a couple of years later, this is something that would take 3 or 4 years at a minimum, but that gets the ball rolling. But once the study's in place, it's brought back to this board to make decisions, move forward or not. But once you move forward with the choice, then funding can be set aside for a facility development plan down the road. Again, 3 to 5 years at the soonest. But the NCDOT will provide 90% of the, as we understand, 90% of the development costs as well. So 90% of this study, which is great, but maybe what we're more excited about at the certain time, right time, is 90% of the building site development costs, which is seems like a pretty big.
So you're saying, to sum it up, if the need is there, they'll pay 90% of the building costs, we pay 10%?
That's right.
Okay.
I move we approve the application. Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay. Randall, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good day. All right, let's go ahead now. We're just a little bit ahead of schedule now. So let's move to, I think we have several people here concerning the Second Amendment endorsement. And, we know how valuable your time is, and supper time's coming up. So let's go ahead and move this item on up and address that. The board, as you well know, we have two former law enforcement members who serve on our board, and we live in a rural county that loves to hunt and fish and target shoot. We have a range owner or two in here, and the board felt concerned about the trend nationally, where you see a neighboring state, a governor is saber rattling is what I call it, and making threats against rights that are enshrined in the Constitution. So the board decided we need to go ahead and locally represent the majority of the people who live here and bring this and have this item on our agenda. And so tonight, we're looking, Mr. Wooten, how many counties have done this now in North Carolina?
It's hard to keep up with it. We've counted about 10 that have done it so far. That's ranging from Gaston County near Charlotte to Surrey County, Cherokee, Rutherford. So
Keep reading.
we get notification through the listservs and things, couple every week.
Okay, so we have this on our agenda tonight to go ahead and as a board, discuss and take action on. So I'll open up the board members now with comments or questions for staff.
I'd like to just say that in everything that I've been able to learn in my 62 years, I can hunt and fish with a bow and arrow, or I can fish with a hook and line and sinker to gather food to feed my family. But the right to keep and bear arms was intended for you and I to defend ourselves against a government that would want to take away that right. So I am in total support for this resolution.
Commissioner Brown.
Well, I'll just say, as prior military, that I support it 100%. I believe in the right to bear arms, and I think that's a constitutional right that should never be taken away from us under no circumstances.
Commissioner Peters.
I agree 110%. And in the wake of what we see in the nation, especially in the state of Virginia, how that the government sees that they have a right to infringe on our Second Amendments, it's appalling to me that we have politicians that would have any inclination to even looking against something like that. It's just absurd. And I have guns. I teach my kids how to shoot. They hunt, they fish, both of them, all five of my kids, except for one, she's not into guns that much. But I want to make sure that our churches are protected. Every citizen is protected. With this amendment, and I support it 150%. Everything was in there.
Okay. Commissioner Vaughn.
I support it 100%.
Okay.
I have the right to protect myself in my own
That's
home.
exactly right.
And I think a lot of the news media and stuff's blown this completely out of socket. And there's as many people stabbed and killed as there is any other way, or they're going to start taking kitchen knives. So I support the amendment, and it was ratified in 1791. We need to leave our Constitution alone.
More people are killed by automobiles, so we're outlawing automobiles.
That's it.
Alcohol kills more people than guns do. Drugs kill more people.
And one thing that this board wants to do is make sure that your voice is heard, and in the future, if there is ever litigation that goes up to the Supreme Court, we won't be able to sign on and say we are a gun sanctuary county, and we support that, being a party to that. We'll make sure you got the right, your rights are protected. That's what we're going to do. And so I'll entertain a motion this time.
Move that we approve the resolution.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, does pass. Thank you, Commissioners. All right. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and move to our next item on the agenda, and this would be, well, we're still a little ahead. Let's move to item E under new business, tax matters. Mr. Wood, go ahead, sir, and lead us out.
Yes, sir. These are routine items. I've looked at them, and discoveries, releases, et cetera, that are all pretty straightforward.
Okay, comments or questions from board members? What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve tax matters.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay. Let's go to item D under new business administrative items. Mr. Wood, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Be quick about it. You have, at your place, the notebooks there are the personnel policies and the standard operating procedures for your possession. You asked last month, I think, for those. So these are for you, and when we make updates, we'll make sure that you have copies of those changes that you have voted on. We also post those on the county website for employees, and they get one as well when they're hired. For action items, you have 3 water system waivers of $24.98, $8.04, and $88.08. The explanations are attached, and Mr. DePoyster is here if you have questions about those.
Okay, comments, questions by board members to Terry? All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve the administrative items as presented.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, let's go ahead and move to item number B under old business. This is the public shooting range agreement.
Did we also vote on the budget amendments? Did it include the budget amendment?
I need to,
You just did the fee waiver.
He said all the administrative
I
items.
said all administrative items as presented. That needs to be.
It's up to you. I mean, you
I'll
can.
include that
Okay.
in my motion.
But he presented the fee waivers.
Okay, I'm sorry, just want to be clear on that.
Presented fee waivers. But if you want to do it all at one time, we'll do it all at one time.
Make a motion, we also include the fee waivers into that of $24.98, $8.04, and $88.08.
Okay. We have a motion, have a second?
Second the motion.
A discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, at this time.
We've looked at this prior to the meeting.
For everybody, thank you, Commissioner Brown. What we do prior to the board meetings, the staff by statute has to have the packet out to all board members by the Wednesday before we meet on the Monday. So if it looks like we're moving through here pretty quick, and it probably does, every board member's had ample time to talk with staff or whomever and ask plenty of questions about the items that we're approving or not approving tonight. So we want you to know that we're not just flying through here and nothing's been looked at, reviewed. Every board member's, I'm sure, contacted Mr. Wooten since last Wednesday with comments or questions or suggestions too, maybe, who knows. But anyway, so that, just for information, thank you, Commissioner Brown, for reminding me of that. Okay, at this time, let's move to our 5:30 appointment item, and we have Mr. Terry DePoyster with us. Terry, come on up. He is the convenience center, well, the topic's the convenience center hours of operation. He is not the convenience center. He oversees the convenience center. So Terry, go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Walker. County Manager asked me to come tonight, give you a brief update on our convenience centers and waste operations. So currently in our operations, we have 7 convenience centers operating. All the convenience centers are open from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. 6 of them are open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. The Highway 226 Convenience Center is the one that's open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. We currently have 30 part-time employees that greet and help our citizens at those convenience sites. it was suggested that we take a look at our holiday scheduling. We recognize many of the holidays just like the state. So at the convenience centers, many times that falls during the week. So starting this year in 2020, we've looked at ways to improve hours of operation at these 6 centers located throughout the county. So starting with the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, which falls on a Monday this year, if a holiday falls on a Monday or Wednesday, then we'll begin opening all those convenience centers on a Tuesday or Thursday. If it falls during the week, then we're going to open that following day to keep it consistent. But in that same manner, we're going ahead now and looking at the impacts of what it would take to open those convenience sites 6 days a week, countywide. It's not going to impact the trash flow at all. We all generate trash, we all recycle, so it's going to come to the transfer station one way or another, one day or another. So it's just the convenience is exactly what it's intended to do. It's a convenience you're providing to the citizens of the county. And like I commented to one of the commissioners earlier, I think now we all, countywide, we bag our trash and we get ready to transport it, and then we go, let's see, what day of the week is it? The site's open today or not? So certainly we could look at that and see the impacts of what it would take to operate them 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. On the recycling side, we currently have 5 of those orange 30-yard commingle containers, we call them, where people now are dumping their recycles into one common commingle container that comes back to the transfer station to our recycling facility. They're located at the Highway 226 South site, Nebo, Greenlee, Woodlawn, and Crooked Creek. They were purchased at a cost of $5,550 each on the recycling grant, and that reimbursed us 100%. So in the 2020 cycle coming up, we're attempting to apply for the 3 more of those orange commingle containers, which would finish supplying Sugar Hill and Dyserville, and then it would give us 1 extra for rotation. Currently, we go grab them, bring them back, empty it, take it back. So then we'd have one floating at all times to drop off as we pick up. And then also trying to apply for 8 of the 8-yard cardboard containers. We need to improve our cardboard pickup. All of those, all the commingle, recycling, cardboard, glass, everything is done at a convenience to the citizens of McDowell County to limit what goes into that trash stream. That's our return. Is anything we can do to cut out that trash stream amount helps us. So what do we currently have going on? We're trimming trees, looking at roadways coming into the convenience sites, transfer station. The roadways are a huge impact between just the daily traffic and the compactor trucks that are coming in there loaded, unloaded. We're reviewing operations at the 226 South location, how the impact of the citizens coming into that main gate, where all the commercial traffic is coming in and out. It's all about safety there to me and our staff, about the safety of the citizens coming in, being able to unload the trash and then safely get back out. There's a lot of traffic at that 226 South location. So we're looking at that. Again, I mentioned the researching the ideal of the 7 sites being open 6 days a week, but also I want to say thank you very much. This year in the 2019-20 budget, you helped us be able to fund another Ford F-250 to add to our fleet that is going tomorrow to have the snowplow added on. So that's a second snowplow vehicle that we use that's 2 now for us, but that 2 vehicles covers 30 billion grounds that you have throughout the county. And I can tell you where the next priority is getting ready to be. Now where in the role I am, it's getting ready to be convenience sites. We've tried to hit those as we could in the past, as we could passing by, but they're getting ready to be a top priority because the citizens have spoken out and said, we tried to get there and the gate was closed or they couldn't get in. And many of them have an incline of some sort to try to get in now, so we're going to certainly improve that and make it more convenient for the citizens. Okay?
Okay, for everybody present, commissioners get lots of calls. They're very, very varied. But one call that every commissioner does get is trash related, and the day after Christmas and all that. So I appreciate our staff reviewing internally, and Commissioner Brown has contacted me. He's had several calls and has been motivated to talk about this in the greater with a greater degree. And so we're looking forward to what we can do to enhance the ability for you to dump your trash and to recycle. And so, Terry, thank you.
Thanks. And I would say to any of the citizens, any comments, questions you have, our Public Services Office is listed as 659-2521. Don't hesitate to call us with any concerns or comments you have. We're here to help, here to serve.
Part of your study, are you looking at possibility of adding on other part-time people
That's correct.
for those
That's correct.
sites to be open 6 days a week?
That's correct.
That's
We
good.
have to.
That's good.
Okay.
Puts other people to work, too.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. All right, Terry.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, my friend. Okay, at this time, let's move to item A under board appointments. Item A under board appointments. And this is, we have the Transportation Board, 4 members' terms are expiring. This is second reading, so we can take action tonight. And 3 applications from current members are seeking reappointment. And so, Madam Clerk, we don't need, since we have 4 seats and 3 seeking reappointment, what's the pleasure of the board that we reappoint the 3 who have applied?
Make a motion to reappoint.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign, okay? Thank you. Mr. Williams, let's move to item C, under old business universal engineering contract.
We need to put somebody else up.
Let's go ahead and let's do the shooting range. Commissioner McPeters loves guns, and he is very intent. This is the 3rd time he said shooting range, shooting range. So we're going to move this shooting range right on up here to the top of the plate. So let's go to item B under old business. This is a public shooting range agreement. So, Mr. Wooten, lead us out on that item.
Sure, yes, sir. This is the agreement between McDowell County and the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. This is related to the shooting range that is to be built on Ashworth Road. We've talked recently with Mr. Gardner, Representative WRC, with the status update on that range. Last month, he approved making the non-federal financial contribution in order to keep the property retained by the county. So this puts into effect all what he presented, the retention of the property, the financial contribution, et cetera, that has been done. Have sent it to the county attorney for review. We've sent it to staff, insurance, et cetera, to look at, and it is here for approval tonight. But what it does is it lays out in black and white what the WRC will do, the Wildlife Commission, and what the county will do. More importantly for the county, it mentions that the county will pay the 10%, again, the non-federal share. We will provide staffing to operate the facility with a certified range officer during hours of operation. We will do routine maintenance, and so routine has been talked about a lot with their staff. That means the mowing and those sorts of things. What they have indicated, and I didn't highlight, but where there is major maintenance, they will handle the heavy lifting there. So we had a meeting with staff from Soil and Water Conservation District. Mr. Walker was there talking about the entrance road. So Mr. Gardner talked about it a couple months ago. That road will be paved coming in. There will be a bridge over Muddy Creek. If there's a flood or something where that road is damaged, WRC will repair that road. They will repair the bridge, not at the county's expenditure. So a big deal to highlight there. But essentially, we will operate it, do the basic maintenance, and they will handle the heavier lifting stuff.
The WRC will take care of the cost of keeping the range up, and whatever has to be replaced on the range to clear it up a little more for.
Right, lead remediation was talked about. They will do that. So it's a great agreement from the county's perspective, to where the state will do a lot of the very expensive things to keep it open. Most of it's boilerplate as far as expectations, but staff does recommend its execution as is.
I'd move that we approve the agreement.
Second.
Discussion.
It's a 25-year agreement, right? Is that what I'm understanding? Okay.
The, one question I have, the officer, safety officer, now, the reasonable fees that will be charged to use the facility, can that help pay for that also? Okay, good. Okay, any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, thank you.
Let me ask one other question.
Yes, sir, go ahead, Lynn.
The plans for the range, is it possible if somebody is curious about the plan, can they come by to your office and maybe see that, or?
What we'll
Once it's
do,
done?
yes, sir, we'll ask for a copy of the plans that we can print on big paper, and we'll let you know when
Okay.
they're ready to look at. It's a public document, so definitely.
Post it in the admin office, or
We can do that. Make sure Mr. Harmon, who's not able to be here tonight, but due to illness, but we'll make sure that's in his office as well.
Okay, all right. Let's move to item C under old business. This would be the Universal Engineering Contract. Go ahead, Mr. Wooten, lead us out.
Yes, sir. You have previously allowed staff to apply for grant funding for water and sewer lines on the undeveloped Universal property along Collins Drive. The grant was awarded. You've approved the grant contract. This is a proposal from a firm called the Wooten Company. I must point out there's no
Is that
relation.
your cousin's firm, Ashley?
No, sir. No relation,
Strike that for
thankfully.
this, clerk.
But this firm does water and sewer engineering design, and they did the legwork to get the grant. Not at the expectation that they would get the engineering work, but they have demonstrated they are skilled in what they do, and they have sent in the attached proposals. We did look at their hourly rates, and they seem to be in range with firms we've worked with before, and would recommend their engagement.
And this, the budgetary impact is already covered by funds that are designated for this
Yes, sir,
use.
with the local match or the state funds you've identified.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? Comments or questions?
Motion to approve the agreement with the Wooten Company.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay. Let's move to our next item on our appointment schedule, and this will be item D, and this is the Sugar Hill Montford Cove Fire Department's district update and request. So I guess, Craig, you're handling this, right? And we have the chief here. If you can introduce everybody present that is here in support of this and to us tonight.
Certainly. We have Terry Young with the Department of Insurance. He's helped us a lot with this project. Chief Ray McDaniel, Marion Fire Department. Chief Joe Washburn, Sugar Hill Fire Department. And Assistant Chief Corey Presnell, which is Marion Fire Department and also volunteers at Sugar Hill. So, and Ron, I'm sorry, I just saw him walk in. Chief Ron Richardson from Old Fort Fire Department is here also. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We certainly do appreciate your time this evening. Our office is certainly excited about this process, and what we bring to you today is the preliminary start of implementing the approval of Sugar Hill Fire Station District 2, which is the substation that is located on Zion Hill. Sugar Hill Fire Department actually got that constructed and completed and has that in operation as of last year. Things are going well. This process now is to get a district line for that department. Substations, you see a lot, can be done one or two ways. People can actually, or fire departments can actually put a substation up and have no district there, or they can put a substation up and redistrict it. The importance of redistricting and what Sugar Hill's wanting to do, the area up in the Zion Hill, Nix Creek, Lytle Mountain area holds what we call Class 10. I know you guys have heard me talk about that before as far as unprotected area, and also it has area of 6 Mile District. And kind
Craig,
of
can you real quick tell about the, for whoever's watching, how that affects them?
Absolutely. So years ago in the fire service, we had 5 Mile district lines. So that was from the point of the fire department 5 miles out of the road was in that 5-mile district. Several years ago, Department of Insurance actually made it where you could do a 6-mile district. 6 mile taking in another mile of that district line. Sugar Hill Fire Department and several others have lowered their insurance rate, and Sugar Hill is currently a Class 5. So everybody within that 5-mile district has that Class 5 rating, which obviously helps on your insurance, your homeowner's insurance, and drops that significantly. Anywhere between the 5-mile and 6-mile is Class 9. That's as low as they can go in that 1-mile area, and then Class 10 obviously is a lot higher premium if they can get a premium for that unprotected area. In Sugar Hill, Zion Hill area, Nix Creek area, there is quite a bit of 6-mile district line there. Lytle Mountain, if you're familiar with Walpole Road, from Walpole up to Henry McCall, that is actually in the Class 10 district, which is unprotected. So first and foremost, this department saw the need for the response, life safety, to get equipment up there on that upper end of the district. But also, with that said, this is going to impact the citizens greatly for their insurance rating, and not only response, but insurance rating, and get that Class 10 area covered. And also the 6-mile area too, where the folks can actually receive the Class 5. With that said, this process, our office takes it first. We have to construct the map, work with DOI. DOI takes it, has to approve it, and then it has to be approved by this board. We understand that we have to have a hearing, and a hearing has to be done, and we'll be also putting that report in the clerk's office also for view of that. Just to tell you real quick how these lines are constructed, you guys have got a packet, I think, in front of you, and the lines are marked on there and color-coded in the districts that you'll be seeing there. Nix Creek Road, that line is going to be moving right past Crisp Road, on the Marion side of Crisp Road. Henry McCall Road will be just before the intersection of Crown Ridge Drive. If you're familiar with IM, so right in that area there of that. And then all of Lytle Mountain Road will be going into the Sugar Hill District. And let me tell you real quick how this was decided. All these chiefs that are here, including Chief Ledbetter from PG Fire Department, actually met in the address office and decided where these lines should go. And the way they done that was, and we're very proud of how that was done. There was no problem at all on that. It was what benefited that citizen the most. And the way they did that was, if this was PG area and it was 6 mile, and Sugar Hill could catch that 6 mile area, that's the way the line was constructed, and that went very smooth, and we really do appreciate that out of our office.
Craig, not to interrupt you, but I think I'm right in that zone there where I live at. It's just a toss-up between, I guess, Sugar Hill and PG, but I think I'm in PG.
And that's a good point, a good example. So the way that worked was PG looked at their line, where their line started for their 6 mile on that area, and then Sugar Hill come down, and that's where that line was figured on right there at Crown Ridge was where PG's 6 mile started up on that Henry McCall Road side, and where Sugar Hill could come down. So all them folks that was in PG that was in the 6 mile district could now be in a 5 mile district line. So we'll entertain any questions.
Craig, where does this place us, and you and I have had this discussion from years past, we used to have a fire district map, and that kind of went away several years ago, prior to me coming on the board. It's been almost 16 years. And we used to have that. Is this kind of maybe the groundwork that we need to look at as a board where we can get that thing settled down? Because that map used to be available. We've heard citizens outside of Marion paying Nebo or paying Marion fire tax, and they lived in Nebo or vice versa, or you've even heard people in North Cove paying maybe all the way down to PG fire tax and stuff. And it's always, we've always talked about it, coming in and trying to get a map together, but could this kind of kick into gear with that? You understand what I'm saying? We've discussed that a lot.
I do, and to answer that question, that process has already started, and we've made great strides with the tax department here. Tammy's staff has done great, along with the fire chiefs, and the way we've actually attacked that is Tammy reached out to me to reach out to the fire chiefs. The fire chiefs has went through, I think a lot of the departments had their paid guys go through and look on GIS and find these addresses that are on their tax card that was wrong, and them have been corrected. We've had a lot of corrections this past year, so that has benefited greatly.
Great.
Okay, other questions or comments for Craig? Craig, I'll just say to you and the Chiefs President, had a conversation with a guy today, and we were talking about the fire departments, and one thing I told him that our board appreciates is the fact that we don't see it. There's no, this is my district, this is my territory, you stay out. With the mutual aid and 2 other departments coming, and the fire commission, and you guys working the problems out, I think we've got an excellent group of chiefs who make up, and whoever makes up that fire commission, and who work together, and by the reduction of moving that down from a 10 to 6 to 5, it's going to save these people real good on their fire insurance. So our board appreciates the work that all the chiefs do, and your guys do, and ladies who work together, and just, we appreciate the togetherness we see, and the camaraderie, and you're all in it for one purpose, which is to protect lives, property, and help the homeowner out. So thanks to what you guys do. And we'll see you in February, and we'll have a public hearing to go ahead and adopt this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move to our next item, and let's go down to item B. Mr. Wooten, this would be the airport runway usage agreement.
Yes, sir. This is related to Shiflett Field, which is an airfield on the north side of Marion, adjacent to the Catawba River. For a very, very long time, and I did talk to Mr. Abernathy about this, so we think for at least 20 or 25 years, if not longer, the county has had an agreement with the Marion Airport Commission to have essentially a fee paid for usage of that runway on not really an as-needed basis. It was just sort of an annual payment that was made. We did look in our archives and records and didn't see anything in writing with the commission. Government bureaucrats like myself like things to be in writing, to be honest, especially when there's an expectation of payment in exchange for some type of service or benefit. In this case, the payment is about $2,300 a year. That has been the case for maybe about 3 or 4 years, where that number is not pulled out of thin air. It is the amount of taxes that are paid from the commission to the county, and that amount is not a refund of taxes. It is an exchange for access to the airport based on that amount. So before we paid again this year as staff, we wanted to bring this to the board to make sure that was still okay. We did pack out a very simple written agreement. It's 1 page, essentially just says what we've been doing and moves forward with it in exchange for an amount not to exceed what their taxes are. The county would receive access to that runway. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, comments, questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, Mr. Wooten, let's move to item C. This is the, under new business, the old Hendrix Farm County property. Give us an update on that, please, sir.
Yes, sir. This one's not as straightforward as the last item, but a little bit of history. McDowell County purchased approximately 40 acres of farmland essentially along NC 126 near the Burke County line about 5 or 6 years ago. This property was purchased for long-term needs for a water treatment plant. This is adjacent to an area where the county's engineer identified a future water intake site located near Hidden Cove boat launch. And so the idea from the engineer was have the intake there. It's the deepest point of the lake on the McDowell side. Have the infrastructure run to property very close nearby, and this property was identified to meet that need. Before this property was purchased, the county was studying a much larger tract to the east that was owned by Crescent Resources at the time. This property, the Hendrix farm, as we still call it, was not thought to be available, but Mr. Abernathy had conversations and had board members involved, of course, and it was purchased at that time for $191,000. Since that time, the county has been engaged in a planning process with our engineer, with the state of North Carolina, with Duke Energy, with Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So a very long process when you involve federal permitting and state permitting. So it's still proceeding, and we'll probably have an update next month or the month after. So while we're talking about it tonight, we had received an unsolicited offer to purchase a portion of the property from Mr. Alan Ledbetter, who is in the room at the back there. I forwarded emails from Mr. Ledbetter, and you have, one was sent today. You have several in your packet. And there, I guess on page 64, you see an outline, more or less, of the request. In the colors there, you see the electric right-of-way, which is in green. Blue is the road right-of-way that was sold to Crescent Resources 4 or 5 years ago. And then red, that you see there roughly, shows the offer to purchase the property. Mr. Ledbetter, and again, he is here, but if you'd like to call him, but you have received communication from him. He is a descendant of the Hendrix family, has a sentimental attachment, as we'll learn about the farmhouse. So the request from Mr. Ledbetter is to purchase the property in and around the farmhouse and the barns that are still remaining there. The offer that came in for the red area was for $75,000. The county's easement, the easement that was sold to Crescent in the blue area a number of years ago, that was for $60,000. Again, that's been done and recorded, and checks cashed, etc. So I think that's the facts of the case. About 3 to 5 acres, roughly, doing measurement by GIS.
And our engineer has recommended that we not sell.
We had a similar request about 3 years ago. This is older, but I think the same engineer, it is the same engineer on record. He did recommend not to sell based on the uncertainty of what could happen down the line. Just not being able to predict the future. It's possible to argue that the plant and associated infrastructure could be placed on the southern side of the property and away from any of the existing structures, away from the right-of-way that was sold to the adjacent property. It's just really, and he based it on just uncertainty. You know, if he had said, we're going to build it 2,000 yards away, I still wouldn't sell it, you know, it would be maybe a different thing. He just doesn't know.
Okay, let me clarify one other thing. The property that was sold, or that we purchased for $191.
Yes, sir.
Is it the entire in the black here, or is it just the red?
No, sir, it is the black area.
Okay.
40 acres.
Okay.
It's a little hard, large file. So you would have about 35 acres remaining. Mr. Ledbetter did point out, and I will as well, that there's a corner to the northeast that if the property was sold, would be pretty much inaccessible to the county, and I think there was an interest in adding that to the purchase that had no use to us.
Ms. Wooten, we've got the recommendation from the engineer. What's your recommendation?
It's really tough, having been in the home. Yeah, I have no family attachment to it, just understanding where Mr. Ledbetter and family members are coming from. Understand I have family back east with similar size holdings, and if someone sold some of our land, I would probably feel the same way. Putting sentimentality aside, it's hard to go against what an engineer says. The uncertainty is the biggest question mark right now. As staff, it would be hard for me to put very valid concerns and feelings from the family member above what we just don't know about the future. If we knew it was the structures and everything would be way away from the home, and this was surplus, and we just didn't know, then I think I would feel more comfortable saying this is no impact to us. It's just really hard to know what the future foretells for this property. And I'm sorry, but I can't recommend at this point that the county part with this property just due to the uncertainty of it. Knowing what it means to the family, and at this time, if we came back and the engineer a year from now, understanding it is an older home, it is not being honestly cared for long-term usage, the engineer might have a site plan. It might be different at that point, but
One question, Mr. Wooten, I've got too. County government, when we dispose of an asset, there's a process we would have to undertake, is that correct?
it would more than likely be under an upset bid process. So if you accept the offer for this or larger offer.
Yeah, it would have to be open
It would be
for everybody and to bid on it. And then, who knows what some of the neighbors could do. They could really jack it up. But this does consist of most of the road frontage to this property, doesn't it?
About half of the road frontage along 126. You would have about half remaining along the electric right of way.
Based on, what you just said, of course, we all knew what the engineer said on this. It wouldn't seem logical for us to part with it. But on the same hand, I would like to see that, if it ever did happen and we did, that they would get an opportunity at it, the family members would get an opportunity at buying it if the county did decide to sometime down the road.
A suggestion might be for, again, where Terry isn't here, but if you were, we've honestly not given the home much attention in order to preserve it. It's just a tree. I noticed a tree had fallen almost on the house a couple of months ago. I might suggest that we just maybe take a caretaker posture to it until such time as we definitely know what will happen to the property with the development. But at this time, it's just hard to know, but that way you're not having to, maybe not deciding to sell at this point, but as far as the home itself, keeping it up.
I think we need to maintain to the best of our ability, I've been in the house and walked through that house, and I understand the history and the ties to that property, and completely understand your desire to buy that property, or that section of it. But we have been working we've been in a process for probably how many years, Ashley, to have Lake James designated as a water source for McDowell County in the event of severe droughts, and that's been since, 2005? At least. 6. So the board, we definitely understand your request and know why you want it, and we feel with you. But we have an engineer and county staff that are recommending, and I'm not going to throw him under the bus, ask him the question, give us your recommendation. But as a commissioner, we've got a responsibility too to make sure that we do provide for the aggregate whole, and we don't know what the future holds with water. And not to say though that at a time there could be, as we move further towards building a water filtration plant down there, that we might see when we have an engineer on site, when we lay out where that's going to go, where lines would go, that there wouldn't be a time down the road where a future board could go ahead and offer that and make that call to you. Here again, it will be an upset bid process, so anybody could bid on it at that point once that starts. But I hope you understand where the board's probably going to come from tonight on this, and we really appreciate you reaching out and letting your desire to be known to the county staff so we could consider that tonight.
I would hate for us to say that, yeah, we would accept that tonight and then have to go into the upset bid process and you take a chance on losing it to somebody else.
Real estate prices in McDowell County are off the charts. I mean, it's a great time to buy and sell residential property and land. It's a favorable market, so we don't know what would happen. If Mr. Green is right, when that would become public and then anybody could go through that upset bid process, we would hate to see it.
The good thing is, if there is a good thing about it, as long as the county has it, and we don't move on it as far as building a facility or something on it, it's still safe, and it certainly won't be in the wrong hands. So hopefully that's a little bit of comfort to you.
But the house is really neat. Me and Commissioner Brown went down there with staff and walked through it, and just if walls could talk, there's a show that says that walls could talk, it'd be very interesting to have a conversation. But it's a nice house, and we do need to remove the tree and preserve till whatever point a future board decides what they.
It's a beautiful place. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I will, with the board's consensus, I'll talk to Terry about that and making sure we are keeping it up as far as termites, pest control and things like that with it, and monitoring it for us.
Has there been any evidence of anybody else being in there frequently or anything?
We've not seen any in the home.
I would say that if we're going to go to the expense of maintaining, that we also put that on the sheriff's department's extra patrol list, so that a deputy is down there every once in a while.
And one good thing is the site is, as Commissioner Green has a good point, the site's secured, locked, and gated, locked at the gate. And not to say somebody can't come in, but that's a great idea, and we'll forward that on to the sheriff's department. But we do need to take official action per the request made. So, Mr. Wooten, what would you say we would need to, what's the proper way to handle that?
You can reject the offer if that's your choosing. It sounds like it is for tonight. And
move to decline the offer.
Okay, move to decline the offer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, sign. Like sign. Okay. There is another item that, did you want the board to take up? Go ahead, Mr. Wood, and lead us out on that regarding the property here.
Right, and this isn't related to the home necessarily, but the prior owners had a grazing agreement for the property. When the board at that time inherited that agreement, they directed staff to just keep that in place until such time it was discussed, which is tonight, I guess. But there's a gentleman who has cattle on the property that have been grazing there. He does utilize one of the barns for hay. So he's in there probably a couple of times a week at the most, but he does have his cattle there and his associated donkeys. When we did visit the site, it was suggested, requested, I believe, that the board look at that agreement and perhaps make it available to others to have that opportunity. It helps us to have someone utilizing as far as grazing to where we're not having to pay mowing, but understand completely about that gentleman having a no-bid access to county property, more or less.
Yeah, as taxpayers, everybody should have the right to at least express an interest in using that for their cattle, and if we have to do it on a bidding process or whatever in order to solve the problem, then I feel like that's what we need to do.
Okay, other comments, questions?
You're saying put it out to bid to other people.
How long has the
I think
guy?
we have to, I don't think we can just,
How long has he been utilizing that property?
Not sure before we had it, but since 2014, when we bought it, or actually 2013, right at the end of the year, he's had access.
Our board attorney look at it.
Well, now, is he currently paying a monetary amount? No?
No.
We do get a benefit from those being there. As
We
far as
do.
county property, there is a benefit to having livestock
And it sounds
on
like
property.
The only point I make is, that is county property, which is taxpayer property.
It should be.
So it should be
Open to anybody.
open to, everyone should have an opportunity to.
I do agree with that. I know there is a benefit to having livestock on the
Yeah.
property also, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So by consensus, have staff contact the board attorney and to determine a recommendation to bring back to the board on how to properly handle this matter, okay? All right,
That motion.
all right. We did
You
by
made a
consensus.
motion on it, didn't you?
Okay, motion, second, discussion.
Oh, okay.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, like sign, okay? At this time, let's move to our 6 o'clock appointment. This would be the Health Department clinic fee request. We have Karen Powell, Director of the Health Department here. So Karen, come on up and go ahead and tell us what's on your mind.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you having me tonight, giving me time to speak to you about potentially we are interested in raising our clinic fees. So tonight I bring forth to you, I'm sure you have those in front of you, we have not raised our clinic fees since around 2014. We do look at them annually, but we've not raised them since then. So tonight I bring those fees in front of you. If you have those there, you can see what we're looking at, what services we offer, what we currently charge for those services, what Medicaid allows us for those services, what the usual customary rate is, meaning 50% above or below what people around us are charging for those same services, and then what we would like to change those rates to as well on the very end. So what we do basically when we look at these fees, when we decide what we're going to change them to, Medicaid is our lowest reimbursement rate. So that is the lowest amount that we'll get paid for any service that we provide. So what we want to do is to look at what others are charging around us and then base our fees on that. So we are working currently on becoming insurance credentialed at the health department. Right now, we are only credentialed for immunizations, which means we can't bill private insurance. So we're working on becoming credentialed for that. If we become credentialed for that and we can charge insurances, they'll look at those rates and they'll base our rates on what they will allow us to charge. So we want to stay in a reasonable amount of rate there with what everybody else around us is doing, so that once we can charge insurance, that we'll stay around what everybody else in our area is doing as well. But remember that most of our patients at the health department are Medicaid, or they're on a sliding fee scale. So no patient that we have typically is going to pay that user fee. So if they aren't on Medicaid, they're going to be on sliding fee scale, and we'll base it on their income as opposed to what they'll pay for that.
Okay, comments, questions?
Always said that the best thing to do is use your fees. Ones that use it, they pay for it, but that's my opinion. But that's what I've got on board before, but
Okay. Commissioner Green, you serve on this board. Anything else you can add to this?
I asked a question earlier of Ms. Powell when she came in, and my only concern was if you look to the far right column, what this was, and it's my understanding, and clear me up if I misunderstood, but this would be what a private insurance would pay.
Potentially.
Okay. Let's say you have a client that is not on Medicaid and does not have insurance. They would be responsible.
They'll be on the sliding fee scale. So
Okay.
we base that on their income.
Okay.
So whatever, we have a whole, what we do when we bring them in, we figure out what their income is and base what they pay on that.
Okay.
So it could potentially be $5.
All right.
depend on-
So income based, so that way we're still watching over citizens who,
That's my concern.
okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm-
That was my concern, and I discussed it with her too,
And I
and
wanted-
worked through it.
One of the things that you asked me about that cystic fibrosis test, some of our tests that we do that are sent to LabCorp, which is the lab that we use, depending on what LabCorp charges us for that service, we have to charge based on that so that we can get reimbursed for it. So a lot of times we have to charge what LabCorp's going to charge us just to cover that service. So,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay?
thank you
All
very
right,
much.
Karen, thanks. Have a good evening. At this time, we have covered everything on our agenda minus our citizen comments. So if we have anybody here tonight that wishes to speak tonight to the board under citizen comment, just feel free to come forward and just write your name down and your topic, and you have 3 minutes to speak. So anybody present who wants to come up? Okay, there being none, are there any reports, communications from staff and/or board members at this time?
Just two things that we've been sent. On next Monday is Martin Luther King Day. You have an invite from Addie's Chapel for that service. It's at 11 a.m. there at the church. And you also have an invite that was provided tonight, Tuesday, February 4th at 6 p.m. is a what's called a chartering ceremony for FFA, and it's for start of a new FFA chapter for the middle schools in the county. So really big deal, and I think it was reiterated this is a very, very big deal. The chapter in the high school started 6 or 7 years ago, I guess, but this is great to have it, in my opinion, in the middle school. So definitely invited out for that to support getting it started even younger. We'll make sure we have the dates.
All right, wonderful. Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting is over. Thank you, and thank you for coming tonight, everybody. Thank you for being here.